In 1 Kings chapters 12 through 16, we have been in a major transition period, haven't we? The kingdom has split into two kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and we've had several regime changes already, especially in which kingdom? Yes, especially in Israel, the northern kingdom. There's been about 4 or 5 regime changes already up to this particular point. Who was the very last king that comes into Israel up to this point? Oh, Ahab. And all of a sudden, God says, we're going to talk about this man for a little while. And so we get a lot of discussion on Ahab. And most of us know Ahab pretty well. We're definitely, good friends with his wife. Her name is what? Jezebel, yes. I think I've only ever run into one woman named Jezebel, and I was shocked. It's kind of like naming your kid Sue, and I guess. Very, very interesting. But this section here is interesting too, okay? Who's got a title for 1 Kings 17, 1 through 16? Glenn? Okay, Elijah is fed by the ravens and the widow woman. Is that? I'm just going to be mean because it's Glenn and I'm going to pick on him just a little. Is that all that's in there? See, nope. I got some ladies down here saying nope. But it's hard to title these, aren't there? Because there's so many things going on. Abby? Elijah's faith and God's provision. Okay, very good. Who else? Anybody else got a title? All right, go for it. Oh boy, listen to that. Elijah's ministry during the drought. That's pretty good, isn't it? That's pretty good. I just put this. Elijah prophesies and God provides. Okay, Elijah prophesies and God provides. We only have 3 points in this particular section, so let's spend just a minute or two. Who's got an outline? Anybody got an outline you want to share? Glenn does. Point number 1.
Elijah predicts a drought.
Okay, Elijah predicts a drought. Number 2.
Elijah survives by the brook Cherith.
Okay, Elijah survives by the brook. Okay, the widow woman and a little bit in the barrel of meal. Okay, very good. I just put this one. Number 1, prophecy of no rain. Point number 2, provision by the ravens. Point number 3, prophet in a relationship. And that prophet is P-R-O-F-I-T, not prophet. Okay, prophet in a relationship. And a relationship that came about pretty quickly, did it not? Very, very interesting. What does the text mean when it says that Elijah was a Tishbite? That's the way verse 1 begins. And Elijah the Tishbite. Who is that? What is that? Okay, yes, it is an inhabitant of the town of Tishbe. T-I-S-H-B-E-H. Anybody do any study on this little town? Guess what? They have not found it yet. Okay? They do not know exactly where this town is. The spade has not overturned enough dirt over in that land in order to find the town of Tishbe. We do, however, know the approximate location, don't we? Because we have the region. Did anybody look up Elijah's name? No, because I didn't ask that, I know. I thought maybe somebody might. Elijah means this: Yahweh is God. Yahweh is God. Isn't that an interesting title for a prophet? Remember when Hebrews heard names, they didn't just hear names, they heard the meaning of the word. When you hear my name, all you hear is Victor, right? Well, now that you know who I am, well, the old preacher, you might know that too. But most of the time, all we know is the name. That's not the way it was. When they heard a name, they knew exactly what that name meant. And a lot of times that name held a lot of context and a lot of meaning, and or make you wonder, Yahweh is God. It at least shows us that his parents must have been somewhat godly, right? Must have been somewhat godly. A whole lot different than naming your child Jezebel, isn't it? Elijah was an inhabitant of Gilead. True or false? That's true. Folks, Gilead is on the eastern side of the Jordan River. Okay, on the eastern side. Remember when the children of Israel come up from the south, they come up having been released from the land of Egypt, and they reach the land of Moab, do they not? And 2.5 tribes get land on the east side of the Jordan River, don't they? Okay, and then the remaining tribes get land on the western side of the Jordan. It was originally only intended for them to get the land on the western side of the Jordan River. But those 2.5 tribes got there, they said, man, this is some beautiful land. This is perfect for what? For flocks and herds and cattle. And so they asked for the land, and God gave them that land as well. So that whole region right there, it's kind of split by what? It's split by the Jordan River, isn't it? Okay, so very, very interesting. And somewhere in Gilead, we don't know where, is a little town called Tishbe, or at least there used to be one there. Okay, there was another town. Notice this is called Tishbe of Gilead, is it not? There was another Tishbe. Guess where it was located? Anybody find out? Nobody found out? It was located in Galilee. Okay, Galilee, which is on the other side of the Jordan River. So sometimes when they say who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, he does that to establish which Tishbe he's talking about. Okay, what did Elijah tell Ahab? No, nobody ever wants to say it all because it's too long, is it? And said to Ahab, as the Lord liveth, before whom I stand, there shall be no dew nor rain these years according to my word. There's what he said, isn't it? Wow. No dew. Did dew furnish some nourishment for the vegetation early in the morning? Oh, yes. And it was very important, that dew was. Well, you think no dew, no rain, and all he says was, these years. In this context, do we ever learn how many years? No. Guess where we learn that? We learn it from the New Testament. Okay, does anybody remember how long it was? 3.5 years, folks. 42 months. Is that a long time? Yeah. You go with no rain, well, just think, your first year, your crops are gone, right? And so you're kind of still living on the produce from the year before. But you go 2 years and you go 3 years, and everything that we had canned, everything that we had put in the freezers, well, they didn't have freezers back then, but anything that we've stored properly, it's gone, right? And people are beginning to starve, aren't they? And very, very interesting. And for some individuals, it doesn't even take that long, right? How many of you in here still can things today? I got one person in the whole thing still can things today. How long would it take you to run out of the food that's in your refrigerator and freezer? Jim says about a week. Okay. We went yesterday, so yes, we might make it a week. Okay. But just think about that. We've only got provisions in our house. Maybe some have a freezer full of stuff, right? Maybe you've gone out and got some meat and you got a freezer full of some stuff. Maybe you can make it a year or so, but most people couldn't make it very long, even a week or 2 or 3 weeks, a month especially. Many individuals would be in a lot of difficulty. And so he proclaims a famine, does he not? A drought in the land. And what does he mean by this phrase, as the Lord liveth? Isn't that what he said? As the Lord liveth. What does he mean by that? Anybody in here ever say that? As the Lord liveth, I'm going to church today. Did you say that this morning? Nah, I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't. Because we don't talk like that today, do we?
It would mean as sure as God is.
Okay, so what does this phrase stand for then?
That if you believe in God, and because I do believe in God, this is going to happen.
Okay? In other words, it's almost as if he invokes God as a witness, does he not?
Exactly.
If God is living, then guess what? Everything I'm telling you is absolute what? It's absolute truth. Very, very good. Now notice this. Before whom I stand. Man, I love that. Before whom I stand. What was Elijah? He was a prophet, was he not? And true or false, a prophet was an office in Israel. Well, don't answer all at once. I thought everybody would answer me quickly. Yeah, it was an office in Israel. We're talking about the office of a king, the office of a priest, and the office of a what? Of a prophet, folks. It was a high calling. Okay, and these prophets were a check upon who? The kings and the priests, weren't they? And so it was kind of a check and balance system among them. And who is it that anointed these men to their offices? God did, and all three are anointed offices. Now what's interesting in the Old Testament, you have some men like David who are kings and prophets, right? You have some men like Samuel who are priests and prophets. You don't have any man in the Old Testament who is prophet, priest, and king. You don't have any until Jesus comes along. And guess what he is? He is all three. Prophet, priest, and king. The anointed one, isn't he? Because he holds all three offices. Very, very interesting. But these individuals were anointed by God to their service. And guess what? They stood before God accountable to Him. Man. We don't have any anointed offices anymore in the church. Okay, by that I mean where you're anointed with oil to fulfill the office. But folks, if you are in an office in the church, guess who you will stand before? You will stand before God. Okay? And we need to remember that, don't we? If I'm a teacher, I stand before God. If I'm a preacher, I stand before God. If I am a deacon, I stand before God. If I am an elder, I stand before God. It is He who enables us to be in those positions, does He not? And we need to remember that we are standing before Him. Now I wrote this point down. Elijah was standing in the presence of a king, wasn't he? He was speaking these words to Ahab, wasn't he? Now watch this next one. However, he wanted the king to know that he understood that he also stood in the presence of someone greater than Ahab. Wow. He stood before God. Right? And, that's where sometimes we need to remember that, don't we? Do positions mean things to people in our society? Oh, yeah. The very minute a person holds a position, boy, everybody, sets him up on a pedestal and treats him a whole different way than he would somebody else, right? And what we need to remember is that even though that may be true, that they're in high positions, there is always God who is over them. And you and I have a responsibility to God far beyond any secular ruler in our world, don't we? And so Elijah was very much aware that, yes, I'm standing before a king. But guess what? I'm also standing before who? Before God Almighty. And a very, very important thing. And the blank of the blank came unto him saying, and the word of the Lord came unto him saying, were there a lot of different ways that the word of the Lord came to these men? Yeah, when you go to Hebrews 1 verse 1, God who at sundry times and in divers manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets. So there was a lot of different ways that He talked to them. Sometime in a dream, sometime in a vision, one at night, one in the day. Okay? There's just a lot of different ways God talked to him. Sometimes directly, didn't He? And many times when it says, and the word of the Lord came to him saying, it was a direct communication from God to the prophet. Okay? Wouldn't that have been interesting? True or false? Did inspired men know when they were inspired? Yeah. Isn't that something? They knew when they were inspired. They knew when God was speaking through them. David says in 2 Samuel 23:2, the Spirit of the Lord spake by me, and His word was in my tongue. The Spirit gave David the very word that David was supposed to speak. Okay? And so here we have the word of the Lord coming to Elijah. What does He tell him to do? Which direction did He tell him to go? Get thee hence, and get thee what? Eastward. Eastward. Remember I said Gilead was where? Westward, didn't I? Okay. We'll come back to it in just a second, okay? Where was Elijah supposed to hide? Yeah, by the brook Cherith. That is before Jordan. Okay? So he's going to go east, and he'd eventually get to what? To the Jordan River, right? This little brook Cherith ran right into the Jordan River. Okay? A brook. These little brooks are also known as wadis. W-A-D-I. A wadi. And the only time they had water flowing in them was when the rainy seasons were upon them. How many times did Israel have rainy seasons? Don't everybody jump at once. You can guess. It's okay to be wrong. Not often. 2 times a year. 2 times a year there were the rainy seasons, okay? They'd last about a month or so, and they get some pretty good rain, and it would fill up these little wadis, these little springs. When you go over to Arkansas and you go down the Spring River, okay, that river is rain-fed, okay? And you get there in the summer, say in August, let me tell you what, there's some nasty parts of that river. It is low. It's not flowing very fast. A lot of stagnant places, okay? Because it only moves during the rainy season, okay? So kind of keep that in mind. Now watch this next question. I didn't put this in the notes. This is free to you, okay? But if y'all paid me for all the free stuff I've given you today, y'all be broke, wouldn't you? Why would Elijah have to hide himself? Not yet.
Because he was the one that could make it rain.
Go back to what we had said. Said unto Ahab, as the Lord God liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, according to my word. Elijah is going to have to speak in order for rain to fall in Israel. Now, you go without rain for a month, 6 months, a year. Is that going to upset Ahab that there's no rain? See, now he begins to understand that what Elijah told him is true, isn't it? Man, we got a famine here, right? And he told me the only way it's going to rain is according to his words. Well, guess what Ahab's going to do? Called search party, isn't it? You go get that dude and you bring him to me, and I'm going to make him what? I'll make him talk, you know. I'll scratch his feet, I'll tickle him, I'll do something to get that boy to talk. Or worse, right? Or worse. So, absolutely. And so God, I find it interesting that it's God who tells him to what? God tells him, you get gone and you go hide yourself, Ahab. God understands the predicament that this prophet is in. From what was Elijah to drink? And it shall be that thou shalt drink of the brook. When we went hiking in the Ozarks, man, if it were in August or early September, it was hot, okay? And even some of the little creeks that we would come in, they're not running very deep, okay? And we'd have to, we'd carry water bottles, but after 2 or 3 days, you run out of water bottles, don't you? So we'd have to fill them. And we had pumps that we'd pump the water and filter it out. But, man, you come up against this little spring, and it just barely be running. Or maybe it's just a stagnant pool of water. You put your hand in there, and it's just hot. And you just got to pump it, because you know pumping it'll clean it. But it fills your bottle, and it's just nasty. I mean, you drink it, and you go, dude, this is sick. But hey, it sustained life, did it not? And so, can you imagine? Did he have a filter? No, he didn't have a filter. Okay? Not like we have today. Huh?
He had God.
Yeah, he had God, but he didn't have any filters, right? And he said, I just need you to drink out of the brook. Well, folks, guess what? You found your little pool, and you've been over, and you sucked her down, didn't you? At least you had water. There's 2 things man needs to live, bread and water. Isn't that right? That's exactly right. Man. Who did the Lord command to feed Elijah? Uh-oh. The raven is a blackbird that looks like a... Very good. Very good. There's a distinction between the two. They are carnivorous. Isn't that a big word? Carnivorous. I like that. They're a carnivorous bird. What does that mean? Boy, y'all are smart. Y'all must have graduated from first grade. They're powerful birds. They are smart birds, and they are strong in flight. There's only one problem with a raven. He is unclean to a Jew.
He is what?
Unclean. And these are they which shall have an abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle, the ossifrage, and the osprey. We got a few of those around, don't we? And the vulture and the kite after his kind. Every raven after his kind. God was going to command unclean birds to feed His prophet. And He's going to have him drink stagnant water to survive. Man, let me tell you something, folks. If you're in the middle of a famine, you don't care. You know that? You just don't care. I'm just glad that what? I'm just glad I got some food on my plate. You know what? Man, guarantee it. True or false? Elijah was obedient to the will of God. True. True. So he went and did according to the word of the Lord. For he went and dwelt by the brook Cherith, that is before Jordan. Man. True or false? Elijah's faith was strong. Had to be, didn't it? Absolutely, it had to be. He faced strong opposition from a king, wouldn't he? Strong opposition. He had to leave his home, didn't he? You know, he didn't say, you go back home, get your family, and bring them with you. Go make certain that you go get your supplies. He just says what? You get eastward to Shinnereth, or Cherith, didn't he? Unbelievable. He was alone, and he was completely dependent upon God for his sustenance. Folks, that's faith. You know it? That is faith.
You talk about the water, but just think of the meat. Crows eat carrion, just like eagles, and other vultures and that. Dead meat.
Dead meat. Roadkill.
Yeah.
Yep, that chariot run over. What did the ravens bring Elijah in the morning and in the evening? Bread and flesh. Okay, bread and flesh. Okay, I don't think it was a McChicken. Okay, I just don't think it would have been a McChicken. Okay, bread and flesh, but it was some kind of bread and some kind of flesh. I just asked this question, and this goes back to what Dutch just said. Where did they get it? You know, where did they get it? You know, A ram falls off the mountain, explodes open, the birds go eat it. And you got two little ravens who have been commanded by God. Now you make certain Elijah gets a little bit of this. You know, have you ever seen a bird eat? You know, they don't have fingers. Just got an old beak, don't they? Tear that stuff apart. Then they got to fly over to him and set it down before him, right? He has, you know, well, they had goat yesterday. We got a calf today. They must have found one in the field. Well, look at there. They brought me a squirrel. You know, man, you don't know what you're going to get. It may have been big variety. You know, maybe we need to open up a restaurant, you know. But could he have cooked all this meat? Oh yeah, they still had the ability to have fires. You know, you can still cook the meat and prepare it, but it was just that he was not responsible to go out and get it. It was brought to him by the ravens. And it'd be interesting to know how much they brought and the kinds they brought, wouldn't they? That would be interesting. True or false? Elijah refused to drink of the brook. False. And he drank of the brook. What happened to the brook? Uh-oh. And it came to pass after a while that the brook dried up. I told you about that, didn't I? These were only furnished by what? By rain. Now can you imagine? God's told me to go drink of the brook. I got these ravens coming. They're bringing me food. And then all of a sudden you go to the brook and guess what? There ain't none. Come on, God. What are you doing? Right? What are you doing? I just put this, we have to think about the stress this would have placed upon the prophet, right? Every day he goes out and there's less and less and less water to drink, isn't there? What was there was what most of us would never drink until it wasn't there anymore. Isn't that something? Man. And the blank of the blank came into him saying, don't you know he was glad? He went out, found no water. He said, what am I going to do today? And the word of the Lord came to him saying, okay, Lord, explain this to me. Okay, very good. I put this, the first word came in order to protect and to provide for the prophet. The second word came in order to provide for the prophet once again. Okay. Where was Elijah told to go dwell now? Arise, get thee to Zarephath. Man, where was Zarephath? Which belonged to Zidon and dwell there. Where is Zidon? Folks, this is not even in the land of Israel. Okay? It's not even in the land of Israel. Russell?
I got ancient Phoenicia, also known as Sarepta, coastal town between Tyre and Sidon on the Mediterranean coast.
There you go.
Today known as Sarephan, Lebanon.
Yep, it's north of Israel. Okay, you leave the land of Canaan and you go into foreign country. So now he's not even in his homeland anymore. He's in a foreign country now. Okay, why do you think God sent him all the way up there? Yeah, to keep him safe, to get him out of what? To get him out of the reach of Ahab. Ahab would have to cross lines, would he not, in order to go into another country to get him, and Ahab's not going to do that. Okay, unless he wants to invite conflict and war with another nation. So God's protecting this man well, is He not? What had the Lord commanded to sustain Elijah in Zarephath? A widow woman. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman to sustain thee there. Isn't that interesting? He had commanded the birds, hadn't He? I just find that, how did God command the birds? Right? You know? It's just amazing. You know, I can't even command my own children, much less the birds. You know? And now, this woman, she lives where? In Zarephath. She's not even a Israelite. And somehow God communicates to her and tells her, you need to feed my prophet. Right? Okay. Unbelievable. True or false? Elijah was hesitant to go to Zarephath. False. So he arose and went to Zarephath. I just put this lesson down. Elijah didn't hesitate on this occasion to obey the will of God, did he? Folks, you run out of water, you go about anywhere. Won't you? You'll go just about anywhere. Who did Elijah see when he came to the gate of the city? And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was there. I got a question. Do you have a question? Yeah. How'd he know that's the woman? You know? Well, the Bible didn't say that. Y'all are just guessing that. No. You show me where the Bible says that. No, it doesn't. It just said that what? Behold, the widow woman was there, right? Now, he could assume that this was the woman. Does anybody know how he might assume that? How she was dressed. Yes. Folks, if you were a king, royalty, you dressed a certain way. If you were a widow, you dressed a certain way. If you were a woman of the night, you dressed a certain way. If you were a commander in the forces of the king, you dressed a certain way. And you could tell by the way people dressed who they are. So he goes into this city, and the very first person he puts his eyes on are what? A widow woman. I bet that's her. Right? Had she ever met him? No. They didn't have cameras back then. You know, God didn't deliver her a Polaroid. You know, He couldn't fax her a message. He couldn't send her a text over the phone so she could see the... She's never met the prophet. All she's been told to do is what? Take care of the prophet. So somehow they have to meet, don't they? So he goes in through the gate. He sees the woman.
Victor, could it be like going to the airport and see people with signs?
Now, he just added a totally new dimension to this story. You know, I love that. Yeah, there's that widow woman standing at the gate. I'm looking for a prophet. You know, I think his name's Elijah. Oh, goodness gracious. Go home, Glenn. No, that was good. I like that. And who knows? Who knows? That's funny. What was she doing? Gathering sticks. And she was gathering sticks. There were no stoves, ladies. No stoves. Okay? No electric stoves. No gas stoves. It was just what? Wood stoves. Right? So she has to go out and collect these sticks. And you also needed those sticks in case you were cold, didn't you? To build a fire. And so she was out gathering sticks. What was the first thing Elijah wanted her to fetch him? Don't you love that? That's an old country word right there, folks. There's two words in Scripture that let me know that God is somewhat country. Victuals and fetch. Okay? So I feel kind of good about going and talking to God. He'll understand me when I get there. He won't laugh at my country accent whatsoever. Okay? And he called him to her and said, "Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink." Man. Isn't that amazing? Very first thing he does is command her to do something. Right? I need you to go get me some what? Some water. Man. I put this down. He may not have known who this woman was immediately. Asking for her to provide for him would have been a test, would it not? To see if this is the widow woman that I'm supposed to be in contact with. And remember that the Lord had commanded her to do what? To sustain the prophet. So it may have been God's way of getting these two hooked up together, right? When he comes in. Not that he was being mean, not that he's trying to command her to do something. He's just trying to meet this lady. I've been commanded to come here. She's been commanded to sustain me. I just need to make certain that I find her. Okay? What was the second thing that he asked the woman to bring him? Yes, and as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, "Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thine hand," just like a man. "Go get me some tea. Bring me a sandwich while you're at it." You know, just like a man. He said, "I pray thee." I bet he was praying. He hadn't had water in a little while, had he? Wow. Again, there's this phrase, "as the Lord thy God liveth." That's what the woman said, isn't it? As the Lord lives. She was about to say something to him just as truthful as what he had said to who? To Ahab, didn't he? As the Lord liveth. I want you to understand this is true, what I'm about to tell you. What were the only two things that the woman had at home? Now think about that. He told her to go get a cake, didn't he? Okay. Well, a cake, usually, they were probably, almost like a biscuit. Okay. She didn't even have enough for that. Okay. And she admits that, doesn't she? She said, "I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel and a little oil in a cruse. I don't even have enough to bring you a cake. I just got a little bitty bit of this stuff. And my purpose was not to feed you." Was it? What was her intent for gathering sticks? Yes, "and behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat and die." Man. Now, she was willing to go get the water, wasn't she? Because she knew, "I have some water." But then when he wanted a cake, "I don't have a cake. I've got just enough food so that I can make a little bit of something for me and my son, and we can sit down and die." Is that a pretty desperate situation? Yeah. Let me ask you this. You think there were other widows in Zion at that time? I mean, Zidon, oh yeah. And he's only sent to what? He's only sent to one. And what's interesting about that is that Jesus makes mention of this during his ministry. Okay?
She also was one who believed in the God.
Oh yeah.
So that could have been that conduit that brought the two together, was that God saw that she was God-fearing.
Yep. Could be. Absolutely. I put this down though. Well, 2 things. We're not told the age of her son, are we? We're not told the. When you read the text, what do you assume about the age of her son? That he's a little bitty one, okay? Because she's still having to prepare and cook meals for him. But we do that all the way until our children leave the house, just about, don't we? Or moms do. We just don't know. It could have been a little bitty one. But he was old enough for her to leave him to go get sticks, right? So I'm not certain of his age, but
If he was too old, he could have done stick picking up or done it with her.
it's true. It's true. And then I put this down. It's interesting. Was she in a desperate situation? What did she know was coming? Death. But she didn't take her own life. Isn't that something? I heard not long ago that our society is starting to promote this idea of euthanasia again. Okay? Where you have doctor-assisted suicides. You know that you're going to die, and you don't want to go through the pain, the agony, and so you just take the proper medicines under a doctor's supervision and kill yourself. Okay? This woman didn't do that, did she? She said, "We're going to eat this little bitty bit of stuff, and we're going to what? We're going to die." Wow. Look at this next verse. What were Elijah's first words in reply to the woman? Fear not. fear not. Okay? You think she was scared? Probably so. I'm fearful for my life, and I've got who to take care of? I've got this little boy. I'm a widow. Folks, it was a lot different in that society back then. You know it? And she could have been in a lot of fear. First thing he says, don't fear. But then he tests her faith, doesn't he? I want you to go, and I want you to make what for me first? You make me a cake first. Yeah, right. You know, all I got, you just heard, all I got's this what? Little bit of meal and this, cruise of oil, and you want yours first. Yeah, I bet you do. But it would take faith, wouldn't it? And then what was she to do? Make one for herself and for her son. Okay? What promise had the Lord made about the barrel of meal and the cruse of oil? Yes. Says this. Says the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail. Wow. Would that have been an interesting miracle to observe? Wouldn't that be cool? You go there today, you dig out everything there is down there, and you do your little cooking, and tomorrow you go back and you knew you left it empty. And guess what? There it is, right? And maybe a little bit more, so you didn't have to, and by the time the end of the week's come, it's full. I've always been amazed at the miracle of the feeding of the multitudes by Jesus. Right? Just a few little fish, a few little loaves, and he could feed 5,000 people. I just want to be around that when he's breaking it, because I want to see what's happening. Don't you? I mean, it just keeps coming. Where's it coming from? That you can feed 5,000 people off that. Man, pretty cool, isn't it? Unbelievable. 32, how long did Elijah, the woman in her house, eat? Many days. 3.5 years. Probably a little less than that because he'd been fed for a while by the brook, hadn't he? Probably a little bit less than that. Okay? True or false? The miracle of the meal and oil was according to the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. That's true. That is true. So God's providing. And I just find it interesting that He only provides for what? This one woman. That's it. And Jesus makes mention of it in His ministry. So go do a little study on that. That's pretty interesting. Glenn?
I don't remember question 23. What's the meaning of the phrase, "The Lord thy God liveth"?
Yeah, we talked about it. He said that. It's the same phrase that he had used to talk to Elijah, remember?
Right, but she said that.
That's what I said. She's saying that to him to affirm that what she's about to tell him is true. That I've only got what? As the Lord liveth, I only have this to live. I'm not lying to you. I don't want you to think that I'm trying to not give you a cake, but this is all I got, right? And so she was affirming to him that what I'm about to tell you, as the Lord liveth, this is true. It's just an affirmation that, she's calling God as her witness to the truth of her statement. Okay?
As opposed to her saying, "My God."
Huh?
As opposed to her saying, "As the Lord my God."
Yeah, and he may have been, he may not have been, but she knew that that her God his God had spoken to her, right? So, very, very interesting. All right.